Well, hello all. It's Game Methuselah. The only reason I say that is some people keep telling me that the voice interpreter and whatever puts the written word on the screen sometimes puts something a little different. That's okay. I don't really mind, but I thought I'd try to see if maybe this way it comes out a little more clear. 2020, enjoying the world here. My game room here, which you can't see because I've cleverly put it just out of vision, is a disaster. I've been doing spring cleaning, and when you have a lot of stuff that you've accumulated over many decades, it takes up a lot of room. So we're getting it organized, getting a lot more gaming done. That really excites me. And that's what I wanted to kind of talk about today. We were playing Dungeons & Dragons 4th edition, a new campaign with my new best friend, Steve. He loves 4th edition. I love 4th edition. This has been an interesting conversation because we seem to be in the great minority. And I always tell people I don't quite understand it. 4th edition, in my humble opinion, is the best of the Dungeons & Dragons editions. But I understand most people don't feel that way. I think I can see why people didn't like it, but I think that's unfortunate. But the one thing I'm finding that almost everybody can agree on, and that is initiative. Initiative's been going on in games since the time of games. You know, just like chess, somebody moves first, somebody else has to move second. Now, my buddy Steve, when he started his D&D 4th edition, and the first battle we ran, he just had everybody roll initiative, and he said, okay, the bad guys move first, then you move. And you move around your order in the table. And I'm kind of thinking, wait, what? And I was really confused. And he said, look, initiative usually just takes up a lot of time and doesn't really give us any benefit. And there's only so many hours in the time allotted to play. So I find that it's just faster that if we just monsters go, you go, and then we just go around the table and everything happens. And I thought, well, you know, okay, it's your game. Let's see what you do. And as it ran, I kind of thought, well, there's some problems, but it was faster. And there wasn't all this time rolling initiative, setting up some kind of cool initiative tree and doing whatever else is going on. And then you decide when initiative you go and when the monsters go. Because the truth of it is, it's a fail. I would think most DMs out there would say that. The issue is all the characters have their cool initiative modifiers. They roll their initiative. They determine when they go in a round. And then the DM rolls his initiative for his monsters. Normally, that's one roll. Now, sometimes the DMs will split it up and they'll have 2 or 3 groups of monsters and they'll roll them up. But normally, I'd say 80% of the time, it's usually just one group of orcs or goblins or whatever. Maybe there's a boss. That's a second roll. And that fits into this elaborate initiative tree. That all takes time at the beginning of your combat. And it takes time keeping track of it during the battle. And if you're in a system where you can adjust when you move, I'm going to delay my action and go another time, it moves along. And really what ends up happening that no one ever looks at, you could have just flipped a coin. Because normally it's party goes, monsters go. Party goes, monsters go. It would be different if the DM rolled, well, an initiative for every one of his monsters in the battle. But I would think that at that point, when you had 25 goblins in a fight, you'd more likely have a stroke if you tried to determine when each goblin goes. Goblin 25 moves now, Goblin 3. It's not going to work. It's not going to work at all. So most DMs just default to the fact that the party goes when they go and the monsters go when it goes. But if you look at it, eventually it's just the same as monsters go, players go. So in this case, Steve cut through all the BS and got us right to that point. Now, it worked, and we played it. And I made some suggestions. And at the end of it, I started to think, well, we really need to address this. So I had seen some videos on initiative, and then I went and watched some more videos on initiative. And all of them kind of are trying to find something better. The problem is, better isn't necessarily good. Better takes up time. Time that could be spent doing things with your character that are substantially more interesting than determining when you go in the combat round or how you arrange the pre-combat item. Now, you guys all know I like the fantasy trip, and the fantasy trip works really pretty well, but you have to understand, in this situation, initiative is a pivotal part of the game. You roll initiative. It's a D6, plus if you have a strategy or tactics ability, you could add 1 or 2 to the dice roll. That's very important because this is a game with facing. Facing is determining whether you can attack in the front 3 spaces, can't attack in the back, and it people in those spaces get advantages against you. You may or may not get some of your armor at that point as well. It works great because it's part of a chess match. You roll initiative, you decide, well, I'm going to let the monsters move first because I want to see where they're going to go, and then maybe we can manipulate around them and get some advantage and flank them. It becomes very much a chess match, which, though fun and very interesting, and we enjoy it, it really does require a much more conscious effort in combat for the DM. And anything that adds the weight load to the DM, I tend to not like. I do because I'm kind of into complicated games. I'm into complicated systems. I like all this, but I know a lot of players who especially play the Fantasy Trip for the first time are very flummoxed by the concept of how it works. Everybody moves. Once the people are all engaged, the battle takes place. Dexterity determines who strikes first, and then it goes down from there. The only variable on that is a charging pole weapon, and in which case all charging pole weapons go before basic attacks. And that kind of is an interesting deal because what it allows you to sort of do as a DM is suddenly equip lots of your stinky goblins with javelins and spears and really crummy pole weapons because, well, they're really crummy, but it allows them to potentially on the first round of a charge get their attacks off first so they don't just come up and become cannon fodder for the much tougher characters. But since most people play D&D, it's not really a benefit. And even in other game systems, we've seen this thing. So what I sat down and I thought, well, wait a minute. Let's sort of mash all the things I've seen and learned. Most games go with the concept of I go, you go, I go, you go. It's a pretty tried and true concept. And in truth, of course, as I've said, when you look at Dungeons & Dragons combat, after the first round, it's pretty much that way anyway. Let's keep it fast. Steve's idea was good. So I said, all right, initiative is no longer determined by your dexterity. One player on each side rolls their intuition. But it's not any character. It has to be a martial character. Wizards and clerics, well, they're not likely to really learn the military art of commanding units in battle. So let's have a martial character, which usually doesn't get to do much anyway, have something else to do. They control the determination of what the initiative of the party is and whether the party is going to move first or whether the enemy are going to move first. Now, it doesn't have to be this way. I originally thought it might be best by just saying whoever is the highest level. Default to martial character. So if you've got a 5th level wizard, okay, he would normally, roll the die because he's the highest level character. If there was a 4th level wizard and a 4th level fighter, okay, the fighter rolls because he's a martial character. But again, it doesn't matter. Initiative is determined by something other than dexterity. Because in a battle, initiative is really determining how you're seeing the combat and how forces are maneuvering into advantage to win their combat for themselves. Then what you do is you then have all attacks go by initiative order. This was sort of like Fantasy Trip 2, where highest dexterity attacks first. But that might not always be the case with initiative, because yay, it's a main stat is dexterity. It also can be modified by other feats. So first things happened, initiative's determined. We determine who goes first. They go first, and then people attack in the round by initiative order. When you get to the end, the bad guys then do theirs, or whoever lost initiative would then attack in initiative order. Now, if you have a high initiative, you can delay. So if for some reason you want someone in your turn who is slower, like a fighter, to move into a position so your high dexterity rogue can move into a place to get a flanking attack, that's understandable, and that's how you would let that go by. Then the thing that I think is the most interesting. Now, this is the real optional rule. This is sort of the game changer. When the turn ends, both sides have fought, first round, second round, the turn is over, you have the character reroll initiative, which means you could have a situation where the party goes, the monsters go, the monsters win initiative, they then go again, and then the party would go after that. Same number of rounds per turn, but the point is you may have a back-to-back situation of one side going and then going again. It's very cinematic, it's very dramatic, but I can think a lot of people right now are starting to pull their hair out. I don't ever have that problem because they're going to say, well, wait a second, I can't necessarily plan when I want to fight because I may go and the monsters may go, they may injure somebody. I have to change my position of what I want to do and leap in and do something else. It changes the dynamic dramatically. Now, you don't have to add it. If you go with the concept of intuition, you have your initiative, then it's just back and forth, perfectly reasonable to do that. It's pretty much how it's done now and has been done so pretty much since the dawn of Dungeons and Dragons, and really pretty much since the dawn of most war games. But I think I've seen this before in other games, and it works, and it adds this level of tension and interest, and I think it brings the excitement level, especially in a role-playing game, where it's the dynamics of the play that make it exciting, and how well you're able to manipulate things. Now, I know there's always ways to manipulate it, and people will look for ways to manipulate this. Combination character. I have a priest who's got a really high wisdom, and I pick up a level of fighter. That makes me a martial character now, so I get to determine the initiative. So what? That could be true. Either you could disallow it, which I wouldn't do. I'd let him do it, and just say that basically he's coming from a clerical, martial background, and now he's a fighter. People trust his leadership now because he's got armor and a sword and shield, and he talks with a big voice. I think that would work. And I think it will work. And what I'm hoping you guys will do is look at it, try it, and then give me feedback. Because I really think this is a much better way to run your initiatives. Faster. Now, there's lots of things that need to be cleaned and finessed on this and maybe polished to make it work smoother. And it maybe is going to be a little different in each game system you play. But I think it's something that is worth looking into and worth considering, because I will tell you, having played this with my buddy Steve, it went faster. You know, you go, I go, you go, I go. Once it's done after the first round, pretty much like normal, but people aren't waiting. They're not looking at their stat to say, oh, I go here, but I'm going to delay, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do something else. And there's always a constant combination. He just go around the table. You know, we go around the table. So really, if you want to go by initiative order like I like, you just sit in initiative order around the table. The guy who has high initiative can always say, wait, I'm going to delay. I'm going to wait for him to do something. And that works. Think about it and look at it and get it out there in your game and see what your players do. But I think the thing that is the dynamic game changer about it is, yes, it's fast. Yes, it will save time. Yes, I think it works. And I think it works better than what currently exists. But the deal that will be the different one is the rolling initiative at the end of each combat round. Because that, when you have two chances to go and then go again, it's a real changer in combat. And it makes the whole strategy of the way you'll play change dramatically in your game. You may like it. You may hate it. Your players might want to come and burn your house down, so be careful. But I think it's something worth looking at. So I wanted to bring it out to see what you think. Feedback to me. I'd love to hear it, especially if you've done something similar, especially if you know somebody who does like this or other ideas, because really what I want to see is a better initiative. And combats can be long, and anything that extends the time can be problematic. So the idea here is to find something that's interesting and exciting and works and is dramatic and brings out an extra layer of interest in the game. And if it saves time too, it's a huge bonus. And I think everyone might start to see the advantage in this, or at least a lot of people will. And if you don't, hey, look, you've got the rules. You can do whatever you want. Just like I always say, it's your game. Play it the way you want. But if this interests you, and you think it'll work, I'd love to hear if you do it, how it went. And we'll see if you have ideas on how to maybe improve it and polish it. I'd love to hear that, because I think because of this community being as really thoughtful as it is, there's going to be lots of people out there with a lot of good information, and we'll be able to get something that'll get us away from an initiative system that realistically for 4 decades hasn't done justice to the drama and dramatics that I think people want in exciting role-playing games. So hope this helps. Everybody be safe out there. Get out and play some games, have some fun. Or get on Roll-D20 and play some games. I actually have that on my computer now. I can't believe it. My computer friends actually kind of forced me to do it so we could all play role-playing together, because they can't leave their homes or they live out of state. I can't believe I'm in the, is it 21st century? I don't know. Anyway, so until I have a chance to talk to you again, fight to me, devils, fight. for I Hate Peace. Enjoy your gaming and game on.